At Thanksgiving dinner, my sister stood up, lifted her glass, and said, "We voted, and you're not family anymore." The room burst into laughter and clinking silverware like my exile was the punchline to a joke. My mother smiled, my father looked away, and I just sat there, silent, calm. Then I reached into my bag, placed a folder on the table, and said, "Then you won't need this." When Natalie opened it, her smile shattered, and the entire room froze. Before I tell you what was inside or why that night changed everything, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Have you ever been betrayed by your own family and decided you were done? From the outside, my family looked like a postcard, perfect smiles, matching sweaters, the kind of people neighbors wave to from across the street. Inside, it was all control, guilt, and quiet debts. My mom ran the house like a boardroom. My dad kept his peace by staying silent. And Natalie, my little sister, was the golden child everyone invested in, while I was the one expected to handle things. For years, handling things meant paying the bills no one talked about. I covered Dad's dental surgery when his insurance fell through Mom's credit card, when the balance mysteriously ballooned even Natalie's emergency car repair that somehow included a weekend spa receipt. No one ever asked how I was doing. They only asked if I could transfer money today. When I bought my first condo, I thought maybe it would earn a little respect. Instead, Natalie joked, "Must be nice not having kids to ruin your credit." Everyone laughed. I smiled along because that was my role, to keep peace, swallow it, and show up with wine. Then one day, Natalie called with a tone too sweet to be real. "Joel and I are starting a wellness cafe," she said. "We just need a small cosign, nothing big." I paused. "You mean my name and my credit?" I said. The silence on the line told me everything. From that moment, something shifted. My calls started going to voicemail. Family dinners happened without me. Mom sent vague texts, "Don't make things awkward. You know how sensitive your sister is." Dad didn't pick up when I called. Weeks passed, and I watched from the sidelines as Natalie posted pictures, new outfits, brunches, hashtags about cutting toxic people. I didn't need to guess who she meant. For the first time, I didn't chase their approval. I sat in my apartment lights low, scrolling through years of receipts, payment confirmations, and old messages. Each one told the same story. I'd been the family's safety net, the backup plan, the quiet ATM in heels. They didn't love me. They depended on me. And somewhere between those lines, I realized something even worse. They weren't planning to thank me. They were planning to erase me. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Natalie stopped pretending. She unfollowed me on social media and posted a photo captioned, "Protect your peace, even from family." My mother hearted it. My dad left a thumbs up. I remember staring at that tiny blue symbol until it blurred. Then the silence began. No calls, no updates, just the sense that conversations were happening without me. When I finally texted Mom, "Are we doing dinner this year?" she replied hours later, "Ask your sister. She's hosting." That's how I knew something was off. Natalie had never hosted anything without my help. Every birthday cake, every seating chart, every grocery list, it was always me behind the curtain. But this time there were no calls asking for a recipe. No. "Can you bring your nice wine glasses?" Nothing. A week later, Dad stopped by my place to check on me. He stood by the door like he was afraid to come in. "You know how your sister is," he said. "She feels you've been distant." I laughed. Distant because I stopped funding her projects. He shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe you could apologize. It'd mean a lot to your mother." That's when I realized he wasn't there for me. He was delivering a message. I spent that night sitting at my kitchen table surrounded by folders, bank transfers, bills, printed messages. 5 years of helping. 5 years of being useful but never loved. Somewhere between the ink and the numbers, a thought surfaced. They'll never admit what they did, but I can make them see it. So I started organizing, not out of spite, but out of clarity. I made timelines, labeled transactions, even printed out a few screenshots, Natalie calling me a walking credit card in a group chat I wasn't supposed to see. The next morning, I called my attorney, Mark. I asked how to remove my name from my parents' financial documents, the ones I'd signed to help years ago. When we hung up, he said, "Sounds like you're finally taking care of yourself." That sentence hit harder than I expected. For once, someone said I was worth protecting. As the week rolled on, invites went out for Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone got one except me. But I didn't need it. I already knew what day it was, what time they'd gather, what lies they'd toast to. And quietly, methodically, I decided to show up anyway. Not with gifts, not with wine, but with truth. The night before Thanksgiving, my apartment looked less like a home and more like a war room. Papers spread across the table, payments, bank transfers, bills, messages, all marked dated, highlighted. 5 years of proof that I'd carried everyone while they called me the problem. It wasn't anger anymore. It was precision. Each page went into a neat pile sealed into a folder thick enough to make a sound when it hit the table. I slipped it into my tote and stared at the window reflection, the calm face of a woman who'd finally stopped asking for permission. That morning, I woke before the alarm. I didn't bother with makeup or jewelry, just a gray coat, clean hair, and a steady breath. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting, the kind of sharp cold that made you feel alive. I wasn't going to start a fight. I was going to finish one. By noon, I drove past the bakery that used to be our family's Thanksgiving stop. I used to order the pies, pay for them, and drop them off early so no one else had to. This year, the glass window gleamed with the same pumpkin tarts and apple pies, but my name wasn't on the receipt. As I parked near my parents' house, I saw the same wreath on the door, the same golden leaves hanging from the porch. For a moment, my chest tightened with old instinct, the one that wanted to turn around, apologize first, fix everything. But that version of me was gone. I walked in through the open door like a guest who'd been forgotten. Laughter echoed from the dining room, Natalie's laugh high and polished, the one she used when she was winning. She spotted me first, her smile faltering just enough to show a crack. "You actually came," she said, voice dripping with sugar. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. Dinner started like every other year, the small talk, the fake warmth, the careful glances toward me. Under the table, my fingers brushed against the folder in my bag. It wasn't just paper, it was everything they'd ever taken for granted. At one point, Mom leaned over and whispered, "Let's not make this awkward, okay?" I smiled. "Oh, don't worry," I said softly. Awkward won't be the word for it. I glanced around that perfect table at the laughter that used to make me ache and felt nothing but calm. Tomorrow, they'd remember this dinner for the rest of their lives. Thanksgiving dinner always looked like a magazine spread, amber candles, golden plates, everything polished to distraction. But that night, under all the warm lighting and fake laughter, the air felt heavy. I sat between my father's silence and my mother's polite smile, my tote, at my feet. Every word at that table was rehearsed, every laugh too loud. Natalie stood up halfway through the meal, her champagne glass raised. Before we carved the turkey, she said, eyes glinting, "We have an announcement." She looked straight at me. "We voted and you're not family anymore." At first, no one moved. Then, as if on cue, everyone laughed. The sound bounced off the walls like applause at a bad comedy show. Laura clapped awkwardly. Joel grinned but wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother chuckled, smoothing her napkin. Well, she said someone had to say it. I looked around at all of them, people I had helped, fed, paid for, defended, and felt something inside me go completely still. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands, and said softly, "Then I guess you won't need this." I reached into my tote, pulled out the folder, and placed it in the middle of the table. The sound of paper hitting wood silenced every giggle. Natalie tilted her head, still smiling that glossy, rehearsed smile. "What is this?" "Why don't you find out?" I said. She reached for it with a smirk, tearing it open like it was a present. The first page wiped the smirk off her face. The next one drained the color from her cheeks. By the third, her hands were trembling. "What is this?" she whispered. "Proof I said." Her eyes darted across the table, Mom, Dad, Joel, then back at me. "You're sick. You're obsessed." Joel frowned, pulling the folder toward him. "Wait, what is this about the hotel in Santa Monica?" "Joel, don't," Natalie hissed. He flipped another page. "Who's Alyssa?" The name dropped into the silence like a stone. Natalie's face twisted. "You had no right. You had no right." I cut in, my voice steady. "To call me a walking credit card, to take and lie and still pretend I was the problem." Mom pushed her chair back slightly. eyes wide. "Charlotte, honey, let's just calm down." "I am calm," I said, and I was. "I've been calm my entire life while you all drain me dry." Dad spoke for the first time. "You're making this bigger than it is." I turned to him. "No, Dad, you made it small. Every time you saw her use me and said nothing, you made it smaller. Every time Mom said, 'She's just sensitive,' you made it smaller. Until tonight, when your silence became applause." No one said a word. The only sound was the tick of the clock over the fireplace. Natalie stood suddenly, her chair scraping back. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore." I met her eyes. "No, I'm just finally done pretending I need you." I stood up slow and deliberate, feeling every eye on me. "For years you've called me cold, distant, selfish. But tell me who's been paying your debts, who bailed you out when Joel lost his job, who kept the lights on in this house. It wasn't love keeping this family together, it was my money." Mom's face went pale. "That's not fair." "No," I said sharply. "Fair would have been someone saying thank you. Fair would have been not voting me out of my own family." Joel kept flipping pages slower now, each one heavier than the last. "This is all real?" he asked quietly. "It's all real," I said. He stared at Natalie. "You told me she was lying. You said she was jealous." Natalie stammered, voice cracking. "I did it for us." "For us?" he snapped. "You stole from her. You cheated on me. You lied to everyone." "Stop it!" Mom shouted, but her voice broke halfway through. I looked at her, and for the first time, she couldn't hold my gaze. "You know what hurts the most," I said. "Not the money, not the lies. It's realizing I could disappear tomorrow and none of you would feel relief or grief, just inconvenience." The table went silent again. Someone's fork slipped and hit the floor. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "One more thing," I said. "What now?" My father sighed. "Power of attorney," I said. "Revoked. All of it. Medical financial emergency contact. I'm out." Mom gasped. "You're cutting us off." I smiled, small and tired. "Completely." Natalie laughed once, sharp and bitter. "You think walking away makes you powerful. It makes you pathetic." "No," I said quietly. "It makes me free." I pushed in my chair, the scrape of wood against the floor, cutting through the silence. "You wanted a show," I said, picking up my coat. "Congratulations. You got one." No one stopped me. As I stepped outside, the cold hit like clean air after a storm. Behind me, voices rose, anger, disbelief, denial, but they sounded distant, small. On the porch, I looked through the window one last time. Natalie was crying now, Mom's face buried in her hands, Dad just sitting there, finally seeing what he'd ignored for years. I turned, walked down the steps, and didn't look back. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the quiet one they did. The morning after Thanksgiving, my phone lit up like a crime scene, calls, voicemails, texts, stacked on top of each other. "Mom first, you went too far, Charlotte." We were upset, but that wasn't right. Then Dad, "You made your point. Let's fix this before it gets worse." Natalie didn't text right away, but when she did, it came in a flood of messages, apologies that turned to accusations, then back again. "You don't understand what you've done." Joel left. He took Ellie. "Are you happy now?" I read every message once and then archived the entire thread. My hands didn't even shake. For years, I thought silence meant weakness. Now it felt like armor. I took the next few weeks one step at a time, changed my bank accounts, froze every joint document, updated my emergency contacts. I even went to the lake, the one Dad used to take me fishing at when I was a kid. The water was still and silver, reflecting nothing but the sky. I sat there for an hour breathing. No noise, no guilt, no family chaos buzzing through my phone. Just peace. By Christmas, I had moved to a new apartment. It was smaller, quieter, but mine. There were no family group chats, no texts asking for help, no guilt-laced phone calls. Just mornings with coffee and real quiet, the kind that used to scare me. A week later, Laura texted me, "I'm sorry for clapping that night. I didn't know. You were always the one who showed up." I didn't respond, but I smiled. It was enough. And when Mom's final letter came 3 words written in careful script, "We're still family," I folded it, placed it gently in the trash, and whispered, "Not anymore." I cooked dinner alone that night, one plate, one glass of wine, one quiet apartment. No drama, no pretending. Just the hum of the heater and the sound of my own fork against the plate. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for someone else's approval. I wasn't waiting for the next crisis call or apology that would never come. I set my phone face down, looked out the window at the city lights, and felt something I hadn't in years. Peace that didn't need permission. The kind that comes when you finally stop saving people who never intended to save you back. They used to call me cold, distant, unloving. Maybe I am. But I'd rather be alone in peace than surrounded by people who only loved me for what I gave them. If you've ever had to walk away from your own family just to survive, I get it. You're not heartless, you're healing. And if this story hit close, tell me where you're listening from. Share it and subscribe for more. Because sometimes letting go isn't losing. It's finally winning.